Just making sure my computer is ready. Good morning. How we doing? Happy Friday. We made it. Mostly for our grown-ups out there. We made it to Friday. We're doing great. I'll wait for a couple folks to get here. Let me try something real quick. Good morning. Come on. I'm going to try something real quick. Bear with me. All right, I think we're still good. Please say hi in the comments. I'd love to know who's here. If you're logged in, and I'd love to say hi back or Naomi. It is hard when our kitties scratch us, huh? And then hello, Finn and Declan and Zeke. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, we're gonna get started in just a second. Having one of those hairs that's sticking out the side all funky. You ever had a hair day like that? Okay. All right, keep saying hi in the comments if you're logging on, and I will say hi as we go along. But remember yesterday we had a story about Jesus, and he had a special meal with his friends. And so I don't know if we read from this book or not, but here's a picture of Jesus having that special meal. Oops, sorry, with his friends. Bring it down a little bit. And that was for a special day called Maundy Thursday, where we remember communion. That's where communion came from, was Jesus having a special meal with his friends. And today is a day called Good Friday. And this is when we remember the day that Jesus died before he came back on Easter Sunday. So this is kind of a sad day. And I still wanted to read this story because I think sometimes we think it's not okay to be sad. That like if we're feeling sad, we have to hurry up and be happy. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it's really helpful for us to be sad for a little bit and feel the feelings and then let them go and then wait and see, when the happy feelings come back. So I wanted to share this story with you on Good Friday. And here we go. Let's jump in. So right after the meal that they had with his friends, they went to a quiet garden called Gethsemane, where Jesus liked to pray. After the meal, he took Peter, James, and John there to pray with him. While they rested, Jesus fell to his knees to pray. He knew that the priests were coming for him, and he felt afraid. "Father, I know what needs to happen, but it's going to be hard," he said. "Please help me." Jesus spoke to God for a long time, and his disciples fell asleep. So here's the garden. And Jesus is praying there. Those are his hands. Soon, Judas entered the garden. Judas was followed by men armed with swords and fiery torches. "Rise," Jesus called. "Here comes the traitor." Peter, James, and John rose quickly, but it was too late. Judas walked up to Jesus and kissed his cheek. It was his signal to the guards that this was the man to arrest. The guards grabbed Jesus by the arms and held him tightly. Peter wanted to fight, but Jesus stopped him. "My Father in heaven will protect me," he said. So there's all the spears and the torches. The chief priests took Jesus to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. The Romans were in charge of Jerusalem, so it was Pilate's job to decide what would happen to prisoners. Pilate questioned Jesus, trying to find out if Jesus was an enemy of Rome. He knew that the chief priests wanted Jesus dead, but he believed Jesus was harmless. Early the next morning, a large crowd had gathered. "Do you want me to release the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. The chief priests had already talked to the crowd and told them lies about Jesus. "No," the people shouted. "Crucify him." "Why?" Pilate asked. "What crime has he committed?" But the crowd just kept shouting, "Crucify him." Pilate was a weak man, and he wanted to please the people. So he had Jesus beaten and then handed him over to be crucified. So there's Jesus, and there's Pilate. He's thinking about what to do. And at the bottom, we have the crowds who are shouting mean things. The soldiers dressed Jesus in a purple robe to make fun of him. Purple was the color that kings wore, and they thought he had been pretending to be a king. They wanted to mock him and laugh at him. They even twisted together some thorns to make a crown. "Hail, King of the Jews," they shouted, laughing at him. Jesus was forced to carry a heavy wooden cross through the crowded city streets. All the way, people jeered and shouted at him. It was very different from the way he had arrived in Jerusalem. So there's our picture of Jesus carrying the cross and all the people who are shouting. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the soldiers nailed Jesus to the cross. "Father, forgive them," Jesus whispered. "They don't understand what they are doing." The minutes crept by like hours, and Jesus was in great pain. It became harder and harder for him to breathe. A crowd gathered, shouting nasty things at Jesus and making fun of him. "If you were really the Son of God, you would save yourself," they jeered. "Come down from the cross." Jesus did not reply. He felt as if each breath was tearing at his body. The sun shrank away, and the sky became dark and stormy. The crowd and the priests kept shouting their cruel words. Finally, at 3 o'clock, with a loud cry, the Son of God took his last breath. So here are the crowds who are still yelling. And here's the picture of Jesus on the cross. And then I want to finish the story with this from this book. Jesus' friends gently carried Jesus. They laid Jesus in a new tomb carved out of a rock. How could Jesus die? What had gone wrong? What did it mean? They didn't know anything anymore, except they did know their hearts were breaking. "That's the end of Jesus," the leader said. But just to be sure, they sent strong soldiers to guard the tomb. They hauled a huge stone in front of the door to the tomb so that no one could get in or out. So there's the soldiers rolling the stone in front of the tomb. And a tomb is a word for a grave. That's where they put Jesus' body. So I wanted to share this story with you because it's really important to our faith. Jesus did that so that we wouldn't have to feel alone, so that we would have an easier time being good and loving people. And he wanted to do that so that even when we're having a hard time and we're sad, that we know that Jesus was sad too, and that Jesus experienced hard things too. And what I like about the first story is that Jesus prayed, "I know this is going to be very hard, and God, I want you to help me." And those are prayers that we can pray when we have hard things that we have to do or difficult choices that we have to make. We can pray to God and say, "This is going to be really hard, and I need you to help me." And God helps us. God shows up in our lives and shows us love through other people caring for us. Sometimes it's just through our pets being sweet to us. Sometimes it's in the sunshine or the flowers or a good night's rest. All of those things show us how much God loves us, even when we have to do really hard things. So I wanted to share those stories with you. I hope they're helpful. If you have any questions, you can talk to your grown-ups, and you can also ask me, and we can have a conversation about it on the phone or on Zoom anytime. And for Beacon folks, I hope to see you tonight at worship at 7. For Old Pine people and Beacon people, we'll be going over the Easter story on Sunday. So even though this is kind of a sad story, it's actually not the end. It's not the last chapter in this book. So we're going to read that chapter on Sunday together. We'll do that in worship at Old Pine at 10:30 and Beacon at 5 p.m. And then a special note on Monday, we're not going to have story time. And then we'll be back on Tuesday. So join us on Sunday for Easter story, and then Tuesday for our next story at 9:30. and I'll see you guys then. Okay. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you so much, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Take care.